Hey everyone, I'm sure a lot of you are following all this AI stuff, especially when it comes to flying.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere these days.
Well, today we're going deep on a new report called Pilots versus Algorithms. Will AI steal jobs, crash planes, or reinvent aviation?
Sounds intriguing.
It really gets into like all the hopes and fears people have about AI taking over the sky. So we're going to unpack all that.
We'll try to paint a clear picture of what the future might actually look like. Maybe even raise some questions you haven't thought about before.
Exactly. Let's dive in. One thing that really jumped out at me from the report is how it just goes straight to that like gut feeling we all have. Can we really trust machines to make life or death decisions up in the air?
Right, like, is it okay to hand over the controls to something we don't fully understand?
Yeah, and the report doesn't shy away from those anxieties at all.
No, it tackles them head on.
Like one thing they talk about is that fear of unpredictability. Pilots trained for years to handle crazy situations, like things algorithms might not even, be programmed to anticipate.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The report actually points out that pilots are constantly adapting to new information and making split-second decisions. And, that leads to this huge question. Can an algorithm truly replicate that kind of dynamic decision-making?
It makes you wonder, like, what happens if there's some freak weather event or a mechanical failure that no one saw coming?
Exactly.
Could AI really think on its feet the way an experienced pilot can?
Right. And even if it could, what happens when a mistake is made? Like, who's held accountable then?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it the programmer, the airline? It gets complicated really fast.
Definitely. And it's not just about reacting to the unexpected, right? It's also about that human element. Think about it. You're on a flight and there's turbulence. Would you feel safer hearing instructions from even if it's a slightly shaky human voice or a robotic
Oh,
announcement?
yeah, there's something about that human connection that just makes you feel a little bit more at ease.
It's like we're all in this together,
Absolutely. You actually see a similar debate happening right now with self-driving cars?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
People want to know that if something goes wrong, the AI is going to prioritize their safety above everything else. That raises a ton of ethical questions about how we program these systems. Like, how do you teach a machine to make those kinds of judgment calls?
Right. Okay, but let's talk about cybersecurity because that's like a whole other level of worry. The report doesn't hold back on this either. Like it talks about stuff like GPS spoofing and how vulnerable AI systems could be to hacking. Could someone actually mislead an AI pilot? It's kind of terrifying to think about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the more we integrate AI into these critical systems, the more we have to think about how to protect them from cyber
So it's
attacks,
like a constant race, right?
trying to stay one step ahead.
Yeah. So we've talked about safety and how AI might impact that, but the report also gets into those big privacy questions that are swirling around all of this.
Yeah, because AI needs data to function, right? And let's be honest, airlines are collecting a ton of information about us, everything from our travel habits to our payment details.
I mean, who knows what else they're gathering? And the report asks this really important question. Is all that convenience we get from these technologies worth sacrificing our privacy?
It's a tough question. Like, do passengers even know what data is being collected and how it's being used? Do they have any control over it?
It feels a little bit like a black box.
Yeah, and there's a real concern that O-lines could start using this data to profile passengers.
Oh, like discriminating against certain people. That just sounds wrong.
Yeah, and it goes against, the whole idea of fairness and equal access. The report emphasizes that things like data anonymization and strong cybersecurity protocols are really important. But it also stresses the need for clear regulations and oversight. We can't just let airlines collect and use data however they want. There have to be rules in place.
Right, because this is sensitive information we're talking about. What about data breaches? Like, are airlines really doing enough to keep this data safe from hackers? Honestly, it's a bit unnerving.
Well, and that's a valid concern. The stakes are incredibly high, and this report definitely highlights that. But it's not all about data and cybersecurity, right? There's that huge question about jobs. A lot of people are worried that AI is going to come in and just wipe out all these pilot jobs and air traffic controllers, maintenance crews, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the big elephant in the room. And the report doesn't sugarcoat it. It acknowledges that, yeah, some jobs are definitely going to change. Certain tasks are going to become automated as AI takes on more and more responsibility.
So what's the solution then? Do we just let these people lose their jobs?
Well, the report really stresses the importance of retraining, helping people develop new skills so they can stay relevant in this new world of AI-driven aviation.
Okay, but retraining takes time and resources.
Exactly. And the question is, are airlines and governments actually willing to invest in that? Are they prepared to support those workers who might be displaced?
That's the key question, because it's easy to talk about retraining, but it's a lot harder to actually put those programs into place.
Totally. And it's not just about retraining for existing jobs, right? AI is going to create a whole bunch of new jobs too. Like we're talking AI specialists, data analysts, cybersecurity experts, but specifically focused on aviation. It's a whole new industry opening up.
Oh, for sure. And these new jobs could actually offer better salaries and more opportunities for advancement.
It's exciting, but also a little bit scary. I mean, is it realistic to think that, say, a pilot who's been flying for 20 years can just suddenly become a data analyst? That's a big leap.
That's a good point. It's not going to be easy for everyone to make that transition.
Right, and the report acknowledges that. It talks about how governments and educational institutions need to provide, accessible retraining programs that people can actually afford.
Yeah, and it's not just about aviation, right? This is happening in almost every industry. AI is changing the nature of work as we know it.
Makes you wonder what the future holds, doesn't it? Like, what skills are our kids going to need to learn to thrive in an AI-driven world?
It's a question we all need to be thinking about. We've seen these kinds of technological revolutions before, and they always disrupt things, but they also create new opportunities.
It's like we're standing on the edge of something huge, and we don't know exactly what's coming next. And this report actually, it doesn't try to pretend it has all the answers. Instead, it kind of encourages readers to just confront those anxieties we've been talking about.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. They had this really cool exercise in the report.
Yeah, it asks you to, pinpoint your biggest fear about AI in aviation. Like, really dig deep and figure out what it is that's teaching you feel uneasy.
It's like a self-audit of your gut reaction. I like that.
So for our listeners out there, take a minute right now and just think about your biggest fear. Is it that AI is going to make a mistake while you're on a flight? Is it that your job will become obsolete? Just jot it down.
Get it out of your head and onto paper.
And then the report wants you to ask yourself, is this fear based on actual facts and evidence? Or is it more of like an emotional reaction, maybe something you saw in a movie? It's about separating fact from fiction.
Yeah, because a lot of times our fears are driven by things that aren't really based in reality.
Right. And then the next step is so important. You've got to go out and find reliable information. Don't just believe everything you read online or see on social media. Do some research. Read some articles by experts. Look for real-world examples.
Become an informed skeptic.
Exactly. And don't just keep those thoughts to yourself. Talk to people. Share your concerns. Listen to their viewpoints. Have an actual conversation about it.
Yeah, because sometimes just talking things through can help you see things more clearly.
Absolutely. And think about it. Having these conversations, not just with us, but with everyone, is how we move past those knee-jerk reactions and really grapple with these complex issues. It's like the report is saying, hey, let's all be part of shaping this future together.
It's about taking ownership. We're not just passengers on this AI train.
Right, we all have a voice in this. It really feels like we're at this turning point with AI and aviation. There's so much potential, right? Like imagine increased safety, more efficient flights, maybe even cheaper travel someday.
Yeah, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
But at the same time, there are these valid concerns that we just can't ignore.
For sure, we have to address them head on.
And one thing the report emphasizes is that it shouldn't be like an us versus them kind of thing, like humans against machines. It's more about finding ways for AI to work with human pilots and crews, not replace them entirely.
Yeah, it's about collaboration, finding that sweet spot where AI and human expertise come together to make flying even safer and more innovative.
Right, because both sides bring something unique to the table. And this report doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it gives us a framework for thinking critically about AI's role in aviation. Like it encourages us to stay informed, ask tough questions, and be part of the conversation.
Exactly. It's like a call to action. This isn't just about technology. It's about our values and what kind of future we want to build.
Oh, and speaking of the future, one thing that really struck me was the need for international collaboration. This isn't just a national thing, it's global. We need to figure out some kind of common standards for safety and security and privacy when it comes to AI in aviation.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine if every country had its own set of rules for AI in planes? It'd be chaos.
Yeah, it would be impossible for airlines to operate effectively and could even compromise safety. We need a unified approach to make sure these technologies are developed and used responsibly, no matter where you're flying in the world.
Totally agree. It has to be a global effort.
We've focused a lot on the potential risks, but what about the opportunities? What if instead of being afraid of AI, we looked at it as this amazing tool to make flying safer, more sustainable, more accessible for everyone?
Oh, I love that. Like, what if AI could help us optimize flight routes to save fuel and reduce emissions?
Right. Or maybe even develop entirely new forms of air travel that are more efficient and environmentally friendly? We're just scratching the surface here.
It's pretty exciting to think about.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. It's made me realize that AI in aviation isn't just some far-off thing. It's happening right now. And the choices we make today are going to shape what that future looks like. So for everyone listening, please keep exploring this topic, keep asking questions, and share your thoughts with others. The future of flying is something we're all creating together, so let's make it a future we can all be proud of.